Hey everybody, it's Justin Townsend with Harvesting Nature, and I'm here at the Lost Creek Hunting Ranch in North Texas. We use the Lost Creek Ranch to host our wild pig skills camp a couple times a year. In addition to that, they have a wonderful selection of exotic game animals that you can come and hunt throughout the year. In front of me, I've got a pile of meat and I've got some equipment on either side. And for those that make sausage, you know what this is. For others, I'm going to show you how the sausage is made and talk a little bit about fat content and salt ratios in meat and what it does and why you want to pay attention to how you're grinding and how you're mixing sausage. When grinding meat, you want to make sure that your components are cold. So that means all the metal components here, to include the hopper, the grinder, the blades, all that, the plates. You want to make sure that all that stuff is nice and cold. You want to make sure that the meat is cold itself. Cold but not frozen. If it's frozen too hard, it can actually burn out the motor in your grinder. With having both components cold, it prevents what's called smearing. And that's when, exactly what it sounds like, when the meat kind of gets stuck as it goes through. That's not going to give you a great texture for the meat once it's ground. The plate size, you want to start with larger whole plates and work your way to a smaller one. You don't want to take these chunks of meat and try to force them through the grinder with a small plate on. It's not going to end up with a good texture. Same can be said just in general. Don't try to force large pieces of meat through the grinder. You can use strips or chunks, so if you were to take like that meat and cut it in half, it might be a good size. I prefer the strips because it kind of grabs and pulls it into the grinder naturally. You want to go at least 10% on your fat. You can go up higher if you're casing the sausage, usually up to 20-25%, depending on what you're doing with it. For the salt, you want to do, at a minimum for food safety, 1.8% of the weight of the fat in the meat. And that's per the USDA, but also a good guideline. The highest you would want to go is about 3%. Now we're all done with the grind. We're ready for the salt and the fat. We'll get that cooled down and mixed all together. As a hunter, ground meat is very common and a lot of different recipes. You can use varying types of game, and it's just a great way to use all that trim and the other parts of the animal that you won't necessarily be using for whole cuts.